So yeah, so I want to throw out something. It's actually I'm going to do a little reflecting on my own personal experience for a second, and with the hopes that that it is something that other folks will find useful. And in this difficult time with everything that's going on, I actually started monitoring the Associated Press website. Associated Press is a news outlet. That's my keyboard. That must, well, that's weird. Perspective is weird with this. Associated Press is a news outlet that's kind of in the middle of everything. It's in terms of it's not really politically linked to any group, and so I thought it might be a useful way to stay connected. And that's actually an interesting word in the context of what I'm about to say. What I found myself doing, I was doing that for a couple of weeks. What I found myself doing is I was continually kind of going back and reloading the page and reloading the page to kind of see what the latest was. And it got me thinking, so I'm like, what's going to be the latest news, and kind of linked to that, connected that in a way. It occurred to me, I'm like, what am I looking for? What do I hope to see when I do this? So I push that thing and it's reloading. I'm like, what am I hoping for? What would be great for me to see? Like, what would be the thing that would have me go, oh, I don't need to do this anymore, or I finally understand, or I know, or something like that. And maybe that's what I was looking for. And because everyone who knows me knows that I have this sort of ambivalent relationship with social media and the internet and all this stuff, for lots of different reasons. But this is one of the things that I think kind of it invites, is sort of, keep rechecking this and rechecking that and seeing, so this question came to me, like, as I said, what am I looking for? What's that thing that it keeps drawing me in, that I'm trying to kind of find there? And so I thought about, it's like, it would be this thing that would, like, allow me to finally go, okay, all right. So for me, it's like, oh, okay. So now it makes sense, or now I can stop being worried about that, or now I have that answer, or now I'm clear about that. So I'm throwing that out for other people to consider too. What is it that we're looking for? So it's the first thing. That's what it was for me. Is that, okay, so it's clear for me. So then I asked the next question. What does that say about what I'm standing for? What matters to me? That's what I'd be looking for. Some kind of sense of understanding, or that makes sense, or some kind of sense of calm. And it says, for me, it gets me thinking about how that kind of understanding and clarity is really important for me. And I stand for the idea that we should each have understanding and clarity, and that lies in confusion and this constant sort of chaos creating churning of not very much information is not something that I get behind. It's not the kind of way that I want to be. I stand for directness and honesty and clarity, and so these are things that are important for me. And so so I throw those out as questions for everyone to ponder, as a way to maybe consider what they are getting or not getting out of whatever news you're connected to, or social media you're connected to. If it's an attempt to kind of do something that thing can't ultimately do, or has no intention of doing. I mean, the AP, any news outlet, news is not intended to give me a sense of calm. And so if I'm looking to that for that, I'm looking in the wrong place. And connection and honesty and a sense of collaboration, none of these, there's no social media or news outlet that's intended to do that anyway. It doesn't really do that. And I think, what's seductive for me is the possibility that it might, that this is a way for me to stay connected to people. And, in some ways, the direct message part, where we're actually interacting with people, in some ways does that. But other than that, it's just what we call in the narrative work, we call these thin descriptions. Boom, this is what I think. And it's like it's like the bumper sticker of everything that I've gone through today. And there's no invitation, because the way that this thing is set up for me to go, oh, what do you mean by that? Or, although that's what I do with the direct messages. Actually, somebody puts out a bumper sticker, and it's, And I go, oh, so what? But I really don't actually understand what you mean by these words. I'm really, one of the things other people know about me is that I'm really interested in what people mean by the words they use. I don't want to just assume that I know what you mean by that word. I want to have a clearer sense or a richer description of what you mean by that word. So I'll ask people that. But again, the larger point is that, keep refreshing that, keep refreshing that. What exactly is it that I'm looking for? What would be the perfect thing that I would see? And that was really the question that I really kind of loved, this idea of, if I push that and it refreshes and the next thing comes up, what would be the perfect thing? And to answer that question, for yourself, and then, as I just did, so I just laid out the questions, what would be the perfect thing? And then what does that say about what matters to you and what you stand for? You start answering those questions, then you start to go, okay, so these are the things that I matter, these are things that I'm standing for, and this is what I hold dear. And so is this actually these things that I'm standing for, and then are they sort of emblemized in these social media things or these news outlets? And because it's not really a question, because the answer is going to be no. And then if the answer to that is no, then we go, okay, so what might I be looking for, even in this virtual world? What might I be looking for that actually is more kind of in alignment with these things that I'm holding dear and these things that I stand for? And then maybe we can start to build a different sort of way of being with one another that's not limited to these kind of things that aren't intended to do that stuff anyway, and really are just intended to kind of keep us. I don't know what they're intended to do, but they're not intended to do those things. So anyway, something to think about for today. That's what's next with Dr. Joel. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in and all the feedback that I get. And I will be here tomorrow, and we'll see what's next then.